In the grand scheme of the cosmos, humanity was a blip. A minor species on a backwater planet, orbiting an unremarkable star in a forgettable spiral arm of an average galaxy. But there was something curious about these humans. Something that made the more established galactic species pause when they first encountered them. Humans had a peculiar habit of saying, "Please don't make us mad," with unsettling sincerity. The Galactic Council, governing body of the 17 most advanced civilizations in the known universe, first documented this phenomenon during their routine surveillance of pre-FTL species. Ambassador Xrillic of the Parnassian Confederation, head of the Emerging Species Committee, brought it to the Council's attention during their 12,457th session. These humans. Xrillic's tentacles waved dismissively as he addressed the Council. They keep making this statement across their global communications network. Don't make us mad. You wouldn't like us when we're angry. Keep poking the bear and see what happens. Curious linguistic patterns that seem to imply some hidden strength. Councillor Vezneke, representing the militant Drazarian Empire, let out a sound that approximated laughter. They're confined to their gravity well, can barely manage interplanetary travel, and still fight among themselves over surface resources. What possible threat could they pose? That's just it, Xrillic continued. They've accomplished remarkable technological advances in alarmingly short time frames. Particularly when threatened, their weapons technology evolves at 3 times the rate of their medical science. And their entertainment media is disturbingly preoccupied with fictional scenarios where they triumph against superior forces. Grand Arbiter Olan, the Council's eldest member, a being of pure energy contained in a hovering quartz sphere, pulsed with amusement. Perhaps a practical demonstration is in order. The Terran system contains resources that would benefit our expansion efforts. Let us test these humans, gauge their actual capabilities rather than their boastful warnings. The vote was unanimous. The Galactic Council would probe humanity's boundaries, apply pressure in carefully measured increments, and document the response. It would make for an interesting case study, at the very least. We'll start with their lunar colony, Veznak suggested with malicious glee. A minor show of force. Nothing devastating, just enough to demonstrate our superiority. How foolish they were, these ancient civilizations that had known peace for millennia. They'd forgotten what it meant to evolve on a death world, to rise from the ashes of your own self-destruction, to persist despite yourselves. They were about to learn why humans kept saying, "Please don't make us mad." Captain Jack Reynolds of the United Earth Defense Force was having the worst Monday of his life. And considering he'd once spent a Monday trapped in a Martian dust storm with nothing but a broken oxygen recycler and 3 emergency ration bars, that was saying something. "Captain, you need to see this," Lieutenant Priya Sharma called from her monitoring station aboard the U.S. Tenacity, Lunar Orbit's primary defense platform. Reynolds groaned, abandoning his 3rd attempt at enjoying a cup of synthetic coffee. "If it's another system diagnostic, Sharma, I swear I'll—" "Unidentified vessels, sir. 7 of them. Just appeared at the edge of our sensor range. They're not broadcasting any recognition codes." Reynolds stared at the display, his coffee forgotten. "Get me Admiral Cooper." Admiral Delia Cooper was equally unenthused by the interruption to her morning. Her weathered face appeared on the comm screen, salt and pepper hair pulled back in a tight bun. "Reynolds, this better be important. I'm in the middle of budget reviews. 7 unknown ships, Admiral, big ones, approaching lunar orbit at speeds that, frankly, our physics department is going to have a field day with." Cooper's expression shifted from irritation to focused attention. "First contact scenario?" "Looking that way. They're not responding to standard hails." Cooper sighed deeply. "I'll alert the Council. Implement First Contact Protocol Delta. And Reynolds, try not to start an interstellar incident before I get there. No promises, ma'am. Tenacity out. Reynolds turned to his crew, a motley collection of Earth's finest misfits. Besides Sharma, there was Chief Engineer Marcus Wong, a mechanical genius with an unfortunate tendency to improve. Equipment without permission, Tactical Officer Dante Jackson, former street racer with reflexes that bordered on precognitive, and Dr. Elena Volkova, xenobiologist, and the only person on board who seemed genuinely excited about the prospect of meeting aliens. Places, people. First contact protocols. Make sure our engines don't suddenly develop personality quirks. Jackson, weapon systems on standby but not active. Sharma, keep hailing them on all frequencies. Volkova, try to contain your enthusiasm to professional levels. Dr. Volkova grinned shamelessly. Can't make any promises, Captain. This is literally why I joined the service. Well, try not to hug the potentially hostile aliens, Reynolds muttered. The unknown vessels slowed as they approached, taking up positions surrounding the moon. They were massive, sleek constructions of some metallic material that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. Beautiful in a predatory way. We're receiving a transmission, Sharma announced. Audio only. Put it through, Reynolds ordered. A voice filled the bridge, speaking perfect English with an unsettling, mechanical precision. Humans of Earth, we are representatives of the Galactic Council. Your species has been under observation. We come to assess your readiness for broader cosmic interaction. Reynolds exchanged glances with his crew. This was not how first contact scenarios were supposed to go. This is Captain Jack Reynolds of the United Earth Defense Force. We welcome peaceful contact with other spacefaring civilizations. Perhaps we could arrange a formal meeting with our diplomatic corps. That will not be necessary, the voice interrupted. We have studied your species sufficiently. As a demonstration of our authority, we will now take control of your lunar colony. Resistance is inadvisable. Reynolds blinked. I'm sorry, you'll what now? Instead of a response, the largest of the alien vessels fired a pulse of energy that struck the lunar surface near Armstrong City, vaporizing the historic Apollo 11 landing site memorial. They just destroyed the Armstrong Memorial, Sharma said, her voice hollow with shock. Reynolds stood slowly, his face a mask of controlled fury. Get me Earth Command. Now. The diplomatic attempts that followed were, in a word, disastrous. Earth's hastily assembled team of diplomats attempted reason, then appeals to mutual benefit, then thinly veiled warnings. The Galactic Council representatives responded with increasing condescension, culminating in their ambassador, a towering insectoid creature named Vextillion, with patting the human diplomatic chief on the head like a child during their first face-to-face meeting. Meanwhile, the alien ships continued to establish positions around Earth's major orbital installations, occasionally firing warning shots that destroyed unoccupied satellites or space debris. A demonstration of power, they called it. Reynolds and his crew watched it all unfold with growing incredulity. So, Wong said during a rare quiet moment, they've studied us extensively but somehow missed the part where we really don't like being pushed around. Apparently, Reynolds replied, they also missed all those warnings about not making us mad. The situation deteriorated over the following week. The Galactic Council established a base on the far side of the moon, commandeering 1/3 of the lunar surface without permission. They began mining operations, extracting helium-3 and other resources that Earth had been carefully conserving. Earth's governments were in chaos. Military forces were on high alert, but what could they do against technology so advanced it might as well be magic? The aliens' ships moved too fast, their weapons were too powerful. and their shields shrugged off Earth's most sophisticated missile systems like they were spitballs. Captain Reynolds and the Tenacity had been reassigned to monitor the alien mining operation, a task that felt increasingly like watching someone rob your house while you stood helplessly on the sidewalk. "They're expanding again," Sharma reported dully. "Section 47C now." Reynolds nodded. Section 47C contained the Lunar International Science Facility, the pride of human extraplanetary research. The facility had been evacuated 3 days prior. The scientists and staff relocated to Earth. "Same pattern as before?" he asked. "Yes, sir. They're... right." Sharma's hands flew over her console. "Captain, they're not just occupying the facility. They're demolishing it." Reynolds was beside her in an instant. "Confirm that, Lieutenant." "Confirmed, sir. The main laboratory structures are already gone. They appear to be setting up another mining platform." The science facility represented 15 years of international cooperation, trillions in investment, and humanity's best hope for developing the advanced propulsion systems that might someday put the stars within reach. And the aliens were casually bulldozing it for another mining operation. "Get me Admiral Cooper," Reynolds said quietly. "Sir, there's more," Sharma interrupted, her voice cracking. "The evacuation, it wasn't complete. I'm detecting emergency beacons from the facility's sublevel. There are still people down there." Reynolds felt a cold knot form in his stomach. "How many?" "At least 12 signatures. Probably the maintenance crew that was supposed to shut down the core systems." Sharma looked up, her face pale. "Captain, if they continue demolition, those people will die." Reynolds didn't hesitate. "Jackson, bring weapons online. Wong, I need full power to engines and shields. Whatever we've got. Sharma, open a channel to the alien vessel overseeing the operation." "Sir," Jackson protested. "Our orders are to observe only. We can't possibly." "There are 12 people about to be killed, officer." Reynolds cut him off. "I'm not going to watch that happen. Open the channel." The alien commander appeared on screen, a sinuous, multi-limbed being with compound eyes that reflected the cabin lights like fractured diamonds. "Human vessel," it said with evident disdain. "You have altered your energy configuration." "Explain." Reynolds leaned forward. "You're demolishing a facility that still has personnel inside. 12 human lives are at risk. Cease operations immediately." The alien commander made a gesture that might have been the equivalent of a shrug. "Unfortunate, but irrelevant to our objectives. Your species must learn its place in the galactic hierarchy." "Those are our people," Reynolds said through gritted teeth. "Stop the demolition now, or I will be forced to take action." "With what?" the alien asked, actually sounding amused. "Your primitive weapons, your single vessel. You humans truly don't understand your position." Reynolds cut the communication and turned to his crew. "Jackson, target their demolition equipment only. Surgical strikes." "Aye, sir," Jackson replied, fingers dancing over the targeting controls. Firing in 3, 2, 1. The Tenacity's weapons lanced out, striking the alien demolition machinery with precision. The alien vessel responded immediately, returning fire with a casual shot that rocked the Tenacity like a toy boat in a hurricane. "Shields at 12%, Wong reported grimly. "One more hit like that and we're space dust." Reynolds opened a channel to Earth Command. "Admiral Cooper, this is Reynolds. We have a situation. The aliens are demolishing the lunar science facility with personnel still inside. I've taken action to protect our people, but we're outmatched. Request immediate assistance." Cooper's response was immediate. "Hold position, Reynolds. Help is on the way." There was a pause, then she added, "You did the right thing. What Reynolds couldn't know, was that this incident coincided with similar confrontations happening across the solar system. At Europa, alien mining operations were contaminating the subsurface ocean that Earth scientists had been meticulously studying for signs of native life. On Mars, they had begun dismantling the terraforming equipment without warning or explanation. And in Earth orbit, they had just announced their intention to establish a regulatory checkpoint that would control all traffic to and from the planet's surface. Across Earth, people watched live streams from space cameras as the Tenacity, a tiny speck against the lunar landscape, faced off against an alien vessel 10 times its size. They watched as their captain tried to save 12 lives, even knowing his ship couldn't withstand the aliens' retaliation. Something snapped in the collective human consciousness. A line had been crossed. In the Galactic Council's observation post, alarm signals began blaring. Srilik rushed to the monitoring station, all 4 of his eyes widening in surprise. "What's happening?" he demanded. "Energy signatures," the technician reported. "Thousands of them, launching from Earth's surface." "They're primitive missiles," Srilik scoffed. "They'll never penetrate our shields." "No, sir," the technician replied nervously. "These are different, and they're heading for every one of our installations in the system." Across the galaxy, monitoring stations picked up a simple message broadcasting on all frequencies from Earth: "You should have listened when we asked you nicely not to make us mad." The thing about humans that the Galactic Council had fatally misunderstood was this: they were not, fundamentally, a warlike species. They were, however, absolutely unparalleled at adapting peaceful technology for combat purposes when sufficiently motivated. What launched from Earth that day wasn't their standard military arsenal. It was everything else. Mining drones reprogrammed to burrow through alien hull materials, terraforming catalyst bombs that could reconfigure matter at the molecular level, atmospheric processors that could alter the composition of air inside the alien vessels, experimental nanobots designed for medical procedures, repurposed to disassemble alien technology from the inside out. The first wave hit the alien mining operation on the Moon, surrounding the massive ships like a swarm of angry bees. The aliens' energy weapons fired uselessly at targets too small and numerous to track effectively. On the Tenacity, Reynolds watched with a mixture of awe and horror as Earth's impromptu defense unfolded. "What are we seeing, exactly?" he asked as the main view screen showed the alien vessel being enveloped in a cloud of tiny, glittering objects. Dr. Volkova had patched into Earth Command's tactical feed. "That's Dr. Miyamoto's cancer treatment nanotech," she said, sounding both impressed and disturbed. "They've reprogrammed it to target alien metal composites instead of tumors." "Medical equipment?" Reynolds asked incredulously. "That's not even the creative part," Wong added, pointing to another screen showing the alien base on the lunar surface. "Those are agricultural terraforming units. They're designed to process regolith into fertile soil. Apparently they work just as well converting alien structures back into their component elements." The alien commander hailed the Tenacity again. This time there was no trace of condescension in its voice. "What is this technology? It's not in our assessment of your capabilities." Reynolds allowed himself a small, grim smile. "That's because it wasn't weapon technology until about 6 hours ago. Creative repurposing, it's a human specialty." Across the solar system, the story was the same. Communication satellites reconfigured to broadcast signal patterns that disrupted alien neural networks. Weather control systems creating localized electromagnetic storms that played havoc with alien sensor arrays. Construction robots that normally assembled space stations now methodically disassembling alien craft piece by piece. At Europa, the aliens discovered that humans had been studying the native microbial life not just out of scientific curiosity, but also for potential bioengineering applications. Now those microbes, modified to consume specific alien composite materials, were spreading through their submarine mining operations like a hungry tide. The Galactic Council's representatives sent increasingly frantic messages to their headquarters, requesting reinforcements. But their faster-than-light communications were being jammed by repurposed deep space telescopes that normally searched for signals from distant galaxies. Grand Arbiter Olan convened an emergency session of the Council. How is this possible? The energy being pulsed erratically. Their military capability was assessed at technological level 3. These responses are level 6, at minimum. It's not military technology, Xrilek explained, his tentacles waving in agitation. That's the problem. We assessed their weapons correctly, but we failed to account for how quickly they can adapt their civilian and scientific technology for defense purposes. The humans have a term for this, Vesneki said quietly, his usual militaristic bluster entirely absent. They call it weaponized ingenuity. On Earth, military commanders worked alongside civilian scientists in an unprecedented collaboration. Pizza delivery drones were being loaded with EMP devices. Garden fertilizer was being converted into compounds that could dissolve alien shield generators. Toy manufacturers were repurposing their production lines to create decoys that could confuse alien targeting systems. When the alien reinforcements finally arrived at the edge of the solar system, they were met by a message from Admiral Cooper. Turn back now. This is your only warning. The alien commander, unfamiliar with human expressions, failed to recognize the danger in her calm tone. We do not recognize your authority to issue ultimatums. Surrender your aggressive posture immediately. Cooper's response was simple. We tried asking nicely. The reinforcement fleet was met by what appeared to be a massive debris field, the remnants of old satellites, decommissioned space stations, and obsolete spacecraft that humans had been accumulating in orbit for decades. What the aliens didn't realize until too late was that each piece had been repurposed, fitted with rudimentary thrusters and guidance systems, transforming the debris field into the largest minefield in human history. The message that reached the Galactic Council Central Worlds, carried by the few surviving ships, was chilling in its simplicity. Humans don't build weapons. They turn everything into weapons when threatened. The emergency session of the Galactic Council extended into its 4th consecutive standard day. Representatives from all 17 member civilizations argued vociferously about the proper response to the human situation. We must crush them now, Vesnek insisted, pounding his armored fist on the ancient table. Before they develop their technologies further, a full military response would be catastrophic, Xrilek interrupted. Have you not been listening to the reports? They converted their medical technology into weapons in hours. What do you think they'll do if we commit to all-out war? They'll have incentive to focus entirely on weapons development. Olan's crystalline sphere pulsed thoughtfully. Perhaps we should consider diplomatic options. Diplomacy? Vesneke scoffed. They've destroyed 12 of our ships. After we destroyed their historical site, commandeered their lunar territory, and threatened their people, Xrilek pointed out. By any reasonable standard, their response was provoked. A new voice joined the conversation. Alara, representative of the Sentient AI Collective, one of the younger council members. I've been analyzing human information networks, she said, her holographic form flickering slightly. Their historical records show a consistent pattern. Humans rarely initiate large-scale conflicts, but when threatened, they demonstrate remarkable solidarity and innovative capacity. What are you suggesting? Asked Olan. That we've made a fundamental error in our approach, Alara replied. Humans have a cultural practice of warning potential adversaries. Don't make us mad. Please back off. These aren't empty threats or signs of weakness as we interpreted them. They're genuine attempts to avoid conflict. The council chamber fell silent as this perspective sank in. Furthermore, Alara continued, human history demonstrates that they're actually quite reasonable in victory after their most significant conflicts. They've typically helped rebuild their former enemy societies rather than exploiting them. Their warnings aren't just threats, they're expressions of a genuine preference for peaceful coexistence. Skrellic's tentacles curled thoughtfully. So when they said, "Please don't make us mad," they meant exactly that, Alara concluded. They were trying to avoid having to do what they just did to our forces. The council's debate shifted dramatically. Archaeological records were consulted, showing the numerous extinct species across the galaxy that had taken aggressive stances against emerging intelligences. Theoretical models were run, projecting human technological development if they continued to feel threatened. A junior analyst from the Parnassian delegation presented a particularly disturbing report. "We've been analyzing human entertainment media as windows into their psychology," he explained nervously. "Their fiction consistently portrays them as underdogs who triumph against overwhelming odds. They literally rehearse scenarios like our encounter in their cultural products, then solve them creatively when they occur in reality. They imagine overcoming us for fun." Vesnak asked incredulously. "Precisely," the analyst confirmed. "And what's more, their most popular narratives often involve reconciliation after conflict. They fantasize not just about winning, but about establishing peace afterward." Grand Arbiter Olan pulsed with a decision. "We must send a delegation, not to demand surrender, but to genuinely negotiate. We have misunderstood these humans fundamentally." The proposal passed with only Vesnek dissenting. Within hours, a diplomatic vessel was dispatched to the edge of the Sol system, broadcasting on all frequencies, "We come in peace. We acknowledge our error. We request dialogue." Admiral Cooper personally led the human delegation to meet them, accompanied by Captain Reynolds and his crew. The resulting negotiations lasted 3 Earth weeks, during which time the Galactic Council representatives were repeatedly astonished by human diplomatic approaches. "Let me understand this correctly," the lead alien diplomat said during one session. "You're offering to share your adaptation techniques, the very ones you used against our forces." "Knowledge exchange benefits everyone," Cooper replied matter-of-factly. "Besides, now that you know what we can do, there's no tactical advantage in keeping it secret. We'd rather focus on what we can build together." The aliens were particularly puzzled by humanity's primary demand, formal recognition of their sovereignty and a non-interference guarantee, but with open invitation to join galactic society as equals. "Your species continues to confound our expectations," the alien diplomat admitted. "Most emerging species in your position would demand technologies, resources, or reparations." "Oh, we're definitely keeping the ships we captured," Cooper clarified with a smile. "But the rest, we'll build it ourselves. We just want to be left alone to do it, or invited to collaborate as equals. It's pretty simple, really. The treaty that emerged from these talks would transform galactic politics for millennia to come. Its unofficial name among alien diplomats? The Please Don't Make Them Mad Accords. 5 years after what humans came to call the week we scared the universe, Captain Jack Reynolds found himself in a position he'd never imagined, serving as Earth's liaison officer aboard the Galactic Council's Central Station. Captain Reynolds called a familiar voice as he entered the diplomatic lounge. It was Rillick, now the Council's ambassador for human relations. "Delightful to see you again. How are you finding your new quarters?" "Still getting used to the gravity adjustments," Reynolds admitted, taking a seat across from the tentacled diplomat. "But the view is unbeatable." "Indeed," Rillick agreed, gesturing toward the viewport that showed the spectacular nebula surrounding the station. I've been meaning to ask you something that's been puzzling our cultural analysts. This human concept of spite. We're having trouble grasping its full implications. Reynolds smiled. It's simple, really. It's when you're willing to go to extraordinary lengths to prove a point, even if it doesn't provide immediate benefit. And this is valued in human culture? Not officially, Reynolds laughed, but you might have noticed we have a knack for it. Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion at the lounge entrance. A group of Drazarian diplomats had paused upon seeing Reynolds, then conspicuously chose the farthest possible table. Don't mind them, Exrilic said quietly. They're still adjusting to the new reality. The new reality was that humanity had gone from unknown backwater species to influential galactic power in record time. Not through military might or economic dominance, but through what the Council races now called the human unpredictability factor. Earth itself had become a crossroads for galactic trade and cultural exchange. The same adaptability that had made humans formidable opponents made them valuable problem solvers and innovators. Their rapid technological advancement, freed from the need to focus on defense, had produced breakthroughs that benefited countless worlds. Most amusingly to Reynolds, a new protocol had emerged among galactic diplomats. Whenever negotiations with humans seemed to be reaching an impasse, someone would inevitably reference the lunar incident and suggest a more accommodating approach. You know, Reynolds said thoughtfully, watching the nervous Drazarians, we really should have thanked you all. Xrilic's eye stalks quivered in confusion. Thanked us? For invading your system? For uniting us, Reynolds clarified. Humans have a long history of fighting amongst ourselves. Nothing brings us together like an external threat, and nothing accelerates our development like a good crisis. A peculiar perspective, Exrilic noted. Though I must admit the concept has influenced Council policy. We now approach emerging species with considerably more respect for their potential. As if on cue, an emergency broadcast sounded throughout the station. Attention all diplomatic personnel. First contact proceedings with the newly discovered Teresian civilization will commence in 1 standard hour. All representatives please report to your designated observation chambers. Reynolds raised an eyebrow. New species? Anything interesting about them? Quite fascinating, actually, Exrilic said, rising from his seat. They appear to have developed organic technology rather than mechanical. Very unusual. The Council is taking great care with initial contact protocols. Let me guess, Reynolds grinned. The Don't Make Them Mad protocol. Precisely, Exrilic confirmed with what passed for a smile in his species. We've learned our lesson. Some warnings should be taken at face value. As they walked toward the observation deck, they passed a large plaque that had become something of a galactic proverb, inscribed in hundreds of languages. In English, it read simply, "Please don't make them mad. They don't build weapons. They turn everything into weapons."